The next section you need to know about is blood vessels. 3 blood vessels we have: arteries, capillaries, veins. Arteries, as I said before, carry pretty much always oxygenated blood, and they have thick walls. They have thick walls for a few reasons. Firstly, these thick walls are because it's working under high pressure. They've got to be able to withstand the pressure of the blood through the body. And also the thick walls can vasoconstrict and vasodilate. And that we look at that in a second because of blood shunting. So blood shunting is when we send blood or redirect blood to an area that needs it most. If I'm training my biceps, for example, then my bicep arteries will vasodilate. They'll get bigger to allow more blood flow to that area. And other parts of my body will vasoconstrict. So in my legs, for example, where there is less blood needed. I'd say it's been classed before. That's often what can happen when you train legs hard, especially if you're doing heavy squats, for example. Those heavy squats can make you feel lightheaded because all the blood is rushing to your legs. It's vasodilating the blood to your legs, vasoconstricting blood to your brain. It can make people feel a bit lightheaded. We have capillaries. Capillaries are 1 cell thick to allow nutrients to pass through. So we have capillaries that go directly into the muscle. The capillaries are 1 cell thick, allowing the transportation and transfer of oxygen and CO2. So the arteries will take the oxygenated blood to the muscle. The capillaries will transfer that. It will do the swap of oxygen to CO2, and the veins, which we'll look at now, the veins will then take that deoxygenated blood back to the heart and to the lungs to be reoxygenated. Veins, the main things that they have to make them veins, they have thinner walls, because they're working under low pressure. They also have valves. These valves stop the backflow of blood because they're working under lower pressure. And if we didn't have these valves, they would backflow and we wouldn't get it going in the direction we wanted to go into. The last things we need to know, again, on my very, very poor notes that you can't read because they're backwards. I'm not quite sure why that happened. But anyway, we have 4 components of blood. So red blood cells, plasma, white blood cells, and platelets. Red blood cells are important because that's what the oxygen binds to. And that binding of the oxygen then it gets carried to where it needs to go. And without the red blood cells, like the little boats that carry the men, so it's in lessons before. So those red blood cells, through hemoglobin inside the red blood cells, attach oxygen to them and then carry that to the muscles to be used. Plasma. Plasma is the liquid part of the blood, and this is why if you get dehydrated, it's really bad for sports performance because your blood will become thicker, more viscous, meaning it will travel much more slowly to where it needs to go. And basically the plasma is the liquid part of the blood, and that's important why we are hydrated. And we have white blood cells as well. White blood cells fight infection. So again, very, very important in sport because if you get sick, you cannot train, you're going to lose your levels. And so we need white blood cells to be able to do that. And the final part again is platelets. Platelets are carrying the blood. They block, they clot blood wounds, or they clot wounds, stop us bleeding out. All of these things we've got to be able to relate to sport and think about how it helps us in sport. So red blood cells, why are red blood cells important for athletes? Well, athletes or sport require oxygen to be carried to the muscles for us to continue to work at a good level. So if I'm a footballer, for example, I would use red blood cells to be able to maintain my level without getting tired, because obviously I will be carrying oxygen to the muscle, allowing me to work aerobically, and if I'm working aerobically, I continue for a longer period of time. Plasma is important because plasma carries the nutrients and the red blood cells where it needs to go. Why is plasma important in sport? For example, if I'm a basketball player, the plasma is carrying everything that my muscles need to continue my level of performance. If my plasma becomes thicker, more viscous, I'm going to decrease my level of performance because I won't be able to get as much nutrients or as much oxygen to where it needs to go. Why are white blood cells important? As I said before, stops you getting sick. If you get sick, you've got to stop training. Important, for example, a rugby player. If a rugby player gets sick, he will not be able to train and he will lose his level. And then finally, platelets are important. As we said before earlier in the video, platelets are important to clot wounds. If wounds are not clotted, then we will have to stop training. If we have to stop training or stop playing, we are going to maybe lose or not be able to play on the pitch. Also important in sport. That's the general overview of the cardiovascular system. Have a watch of this and hopefully your notes will help that. And the last thing you need to be able to know is through training, how does your cardiovascular system improve? Well, all of these things improve. So you can carry more oxygen, you can carry more nutrients to where it needs to go. Your heart will get stronger and be able to pump more blood per beat. cardiac output will improve, stroke volume, which is how much blood you can pump per beat, will improve. Through all these things, we will be able to have a more effective system. Hope this helps, and we will see you soon.